As followers of Christ, Jesus has told us, go make disciples. Go teach them to obey everything that I've commanded you. And I'm convinced that if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, that most people who follow Jesus really want to obey Jesus in that, and yet it's hard. We don't want to be misunderstood. It's difficult. I want for you to imagine, however, that you have the opportunity to do exactly that in front of the Supreme Court or in front of the Board of Supervisors at Fairfax County, or maybe just in front of the leaders of your organization. What would you say? How would you share Christ? That's very much the situation the Apostle Paul finds himself in this chapter that we're going to take a look at today in Acts chapter 17, where Paul is in Athens. And nobody would confuse Athens with the Bible Belt. By the way, if you're new here, thrilled to have you. We are actually ending kind of a first part in a series of messages that we're doing, telling the story of the Apostle Paul. And we find him here in Athens. And he gets to speak with a group of leaders that few people have the opportunity to speak to, a group of leaders in Athens. Now, Athens, as I said, would not be confused with the Bible Belt. For 600 years, it had been recognized as one of the leading cities of the world. Was the city of Socrates and Plato and Aristotle. It's the place where most likely Aristotle tutored Alexander the Great. Now, when Paul arrives in the first century, Athens has lost some of its international luster, but it's still recognized as an intellectual and cultural hub of the world. And to this day, we recognize Athens for its influence on Western civilization. He would walk through Athens and he would see architecture that is just a wonder of the world. He would see temples and buildings and statues like you could find no other place. In Athens, there was a stadium that would seat 50 to 60,000 people. Now, for comparison, Nats Park holds about 41,000 people. By comparison, Philadelphia in 1776 only had an entire population of 40,000 people, most likely. This is first century Athens. They have a stadium with 60,000 people. It's an impressive place. And Paul walks in there and recognizes, although it's an impressive city, it's a sad city. Verse 16, it's a lost city. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was deeply distressed because he saw the city was full of idols. To say it was full of idols is no exaggeration. There were, say, 30,000 idols in Athens. One first century comic said in Athens it was easier to find a god than a man. The place was just pockmarked by them. Notice, though, it says while Paul was waiting for them in Athens. Paul has just been in a town called Berea. He's traveling with at least two men, Silas and Luke, that we're aware of. He's left them there to finish the work while he reconnoiters in this new place. What would you do if you were Paul in an international city with some free time to be able to hang out? I don't know about you. I would tour the city and want to be left alone. But the Apostle Paul is always on mission. He's always looking for an opportunity to share Christ. And he has just that opportunity. And in the process, he becomes for us just a superior example of what it means to share Christ effectively. And so I want to take a look at Paul's example. Acts 17 is one of my favorite passages in the book of Acts, if not the Bible, because Athens is not a place, Athens is very much like modern day Washington or modern day America. A difficult place to share your faith, and yet Paul gives a great example. For instance, the first thing we see in Paul that is perhaps the key to effectively sharing your faith is that Paul had a missionary heart. He had a heart for lost people. Notice again in verse 16, it says that when Paul walked around, he was deeply distressed when he saw the city was full of idols. That language of deeply distressed, it's a picture of burning inside. That reminds me of Jesus. There are 2 times that it says Jesus wept because he saw masses of people, and he wept because they were lost. He said they were like sheep without a shepherd. He saw lostness, and it just broke his heart. It's not an anger at the people, it's an anger at what their lives are, at their emptiness, at their lostness, at the deception that they're living. What do you see when you see people around you? What do you see when you go to work? What do you see when you drive down the road? What do you see when you turn on television? Paul burned. I can't think of this without think of Vince Antonucci, our first full-time minister here, first full-time associate minister here at New Life. And I share this story because I've shared it before, but this is part of the fabric of New Life. You cannot understand New Life unless you understand Vince's story. See, Vince grew up as an atheist agnostic, never went to church. He is studying law to go into politics, and he realizes he's never studied the Bible, and he decides, I want to read the Bible, I want to know the Bible so I can laugh at Christians. And so he goes out and he buys a Bible, fully expecting it, to have stories in it like Paul Bunyan and Babe and his blue ox and dragging his axe to be able to start, to create the Grand Canyon and all those things. And as he reads it, he realizes this does not read like myth. This is about real people in real places that can be checked out. And the more he reads it, the more convinced he becomes it's true. And he gives his life to Christ. And he leaves the path of politics and decides to go into ministry because he wants to reach lost people. And I've heard Vince say it, you've heard Vince say it, Pat, a bunch of times. Vince will stand in front of a group of Christians and he'll say, I just want you to know, I'm angry, and I'm angry at you. He said, I lived my whole life, and no Christian cared enough to talk to me about Christ. I was lost and headed for hell. And no Christian cared enough to even invite me to church. He said, I even had to buy my own Bible. And so I've gone into ministry, he says, because I don't want there to be people like me anymore. When I hear Vince talk about that burning when he thinks of lostness, because he knows just how lost he was, I think of the Apostle Paul. And that is the key to sharing your faith effectively. Do we really believe that people are lost? And there's a lot at stake. And Jesus Christ is what they need. I'm reminded, this past week I was thinking about, my mom kept a very clean house. And this is years ago. I wasn't even born, I don't think. And a vacuum sweeper salesman came, one of those door-to-door, came to the house to try to sell a vacuum to her. And she's like, I don't need your vacuum. But he said, let me just give you a demonstration. He said, if I can find some dirt, if I can use this sweeper and find some dirt, will you at least listen to my presentation? Mom's kind of like, okay. So mom says he comes in and he puts this white tissue in the vacuum somehow, and he goes to the carpet in front of the couch and says, there's always dirt here. And he vacuums there, and he opens the thing, and he looks at the tissue is pristine, no dirt. He tries some more, no dirt. He puts on the wand to be able to do my dad walks in at this point, by the way, and dad finds out what the story is, and dad just starts laughing. Dad loves to tell this story because dad feels sorry for the vacuum sweeper salesman because he knows what's gonna happen. But anyway, so the vacuum sweeper salesman starts to vacuum the furnace, and he says, I don't want to embarrass you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to, I hope this doesn't embarrass you, but you're gonna be really surprised at how much dust your vacuum misses. And again, he tries the furniture everywhere he tries to possible, can't find, just opens it up, no dirt on the tissue. Dad says the poor guy didn't say a word. He just packed up his stuff and walked out, didn't even say goodbye, just kind of embarrassed. Why? Because he knew she wasn't going to be a customer for him. I got to thinking about that. I thought, I think sometimes that can be my attitude toward lost people. I really don't know. They're really not dirty. They really don't need what I have to offer. And I understand, we don't like to walk around and think that person's going to hell. We don't want to have a judgmental attitude and think, well, I bet that person doesn't know God. We have an attitude, candidly, I think our default, my default sometimes is that person doesn't need what I have to offer, and so if I do offer it, they're going to reject me. Paul looked around Athens and he recognized idolatry, 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 and he realized these people are like sheep without a shepherd, and it made him burn. The first question that I think we have to deal with, I can share with you all the techniques and tools, methods for sharing your faith, and they won't mean anything unless, first of all, inside, your heart breaks for lost people. You're driving to work, you're walking through the office, and you recognize idolatry, 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 and it doesn't make you judgmental, it makes your heart break. But you know what? If you have that heart, I'm probably not going to have to share with you tools because you're going to figure it out. God's going to show you. That was the heart of the apostle